Exposed, the haunted secrets of the 1967 Apollo mission and sinister alien bases still hidden. Clara Hart clutched the weathered diary, her heartbeat drumming like war drums in her chest. Tucked away in the attic of her modest home, this dusty relic held the whispers of a past she never knew. Shadows flickered in the corners of the room, breathing life into her anxieties. Had her father been involved in something more than she could fathom? She barely had time to consider the implications before the sinister undercurrents of Briar Creek crashed over her like dark waves. Her children, Sam and Lily, watched cartoons innocently in the next room, blissfully unaware of the danger lurking in their backyard. Each night she tucked them in, but their dreams were haunted by terrible images, figures in the darkness that bled into their screams. It gnawed at her soul, pulling her down into the icy depths of fear. Clara tossed the diary aside, but it found her again. On the pages, her father detailed cryptic ties to the Apollo mission, and warning signs about government secrets too unfathomable to grasp. What lay hidden beneath their suburb? She felt the air grow heavy, the familiar laughter of neighbors turning into hushed whispering as if secrets crawled through the trees. Outside, the sun dipped low, smearing hues of orange and crimson across the sky. Clara peered through the curtains. Ominous lights winked in and out among the stars, specters darting about like lost souls. The settling dusk sent chills skittering down her spine. What were those lights? As the neighborhood lost its familiar warmth, neighbors changed, flipping from friendly faces to masked strangers. Clara felt eyes upon her, scrutinizing every move. Buttons beneath her skin began to prick and jab. She was in danger, and she couldn't protect her babies. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that is happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As the echoes of her words faded, Clara felt a sudden cold breeze seep through the walls. The lights outside grew frantic, pulsating, a warning siren blaring in her mind, drowning out any hope of comfort. With each passing day, someone went missing, her neighbors, friends once. Clara's heart raced, a tidal wave of paranoia crested over her, making her pulse pound in her throat. The diary led her deeper, uncovering mentions of grotesque entities lurking in the unseen world. They became nightmares that slipped into her children's dreams, their voices drawn out as they screamed for help. The last inkling of calm shattered when an anonymous message came through an old community board app, its simplicity bracing against the chaos. The truth lies beneath. Beneath? Fueled by desperation, Clara gathered herself. She had to uncover the layers of secrets suffocating Briar Creek, closer to the truth than ever. As she stepped away from the window, the eerie sensation of being watched crept over her. The shadows of the past were waiting, and she could almost hear her father's voice calling her home. Little did she know, the shadows were not just memories, they were alive, and her search would unearth horrors beyond what she could ever have imagined. Clara held her breath, preparing to take that final step into the unknown, sensing her children calling her from the darkness, pulling her deeper into the abyss. All thoughts of safety dissipated as truth lingered in the air, sharp and dangerous, threatening to consume everything she loved. What was hidden among the familiar faces that smiled back at her? Clara's heart thudded as she stepped away from the window, a tangible weight settling on her chest. The chilling aura outside whispered secrets she refused to hear. She turned, pacing the dim room, fingers brushing against the dusty spine of the diary. Her father's words haunted her. Beneath what lay beneath? She needed to know, for herself and for her children. The whispers transformed into a cacophony as Clara heard a soft scraping noise, the unmistakable sound of nails dragging across wood. Panic surged, making her breath quicken. She glanced toward the door to the attic, the only possible source. The darkness lingered there, eager to spread. Could it be? Could something have followed her father into their home? Mom? Sam's small voice broke into her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. She turned toward the hallway. Is everything okay? Lily appeared behind him, eyes wide and shadowed. We had bad dreams again, Mom, we heard footsteps. A chill seeped into Clara's bones. It's just the house settling, she assured, adopting a firmness she didn't feel. But in her heart, she feared the truth that the shadows outside weren't just figments of a tired mind. They were real and they were close. She knelt to grip Sam and Lily's arms, forcing herself to meet their frightened eyes. You're safe. I promise. When she tucked them in later, she lingered by their doorway, obediently pushing down terror clawing its way up her throat. As the lights outside cast unnatural shapes through the window, she felt the urge to confront the abyss. She would descend into the secrets of their own backyard, risking everything to protect her babies. Clara's pulse raced as she crept back to the attic, dread guiding her movements. She held a flashlight in one hand, the other clutching the diary tightly. The creaking stairs echoed her every step. In this place of memories, she knew she'd find answers. The trapdoor in the attic loomed. Would she dare lift it? Gathering courage, she flipped the latch, the hinges groaning in protest. Dread surrounded her like fog. Night air seeped from the tunnel, cold and pungent, as she descended into the unknown. The beam of her flashlight danced along the walls, illuminating damp earth and writing obscured by the passage of time. Symbols but not words. Was this part of what her father uncovered? The deeper she ventured, the more oppressive the air became. Crooked passages twisted like guts beneath ancient roots, and an eldritch moan vibrated through the walls. It was wrong, disturbingly alive. Clara could feel something watching, feeding on her fear. Her flashlight flickered, a cruel reminder of how easy it would be to be swallowed alive in the dark. Hold on, please, whispered Clara, urgency shadowing her voice. She paused, fingers brushing against a cold, rusted pipe extending from the wall. She pulled, heart racing, and felt a tremor beneath her feet. The ground shifted. Suddenly, the darkness erupted with a chorus of whispers. They danced around her, incoherent but insistent. Help us! Clara recoiled as tendrils of shadows slithered from the corners, reaching out to ensnare her. She staggered backward, breath hitched in her throat as she clutched the diary. Stop! Get away! Then silence. Everything froze. The shadows withdrew, but the pit in her stomach churned. Lights flickered. The temperature dropped. And then Clara heard the scratching again, but this time it was behind her. Panic surged fiercely. She turned, heart racing, as blinding lights erupted from above, illuminating the tunnel. What she saw made her blood run cold. Beneath the suburban facade, deep within the roots of Briar Creek's dark secret, she could not have imagined what truly awaited her. The shadows writhed, merging and solidifying into grotesque forms, eyes glaring with an insatiable hunger for something lost long ago. Clara, they whispered, voices weaving an eerie melody that pierced her soul. Terror gripped her tightly. Something was coming for her, and she had to escape now. But as she turned to dash back to safety, one final thought seized her. Could this malevolent force be tied to her children? The faint cries of her kids echoed in her mind, pulling her down again. And her now uncontrollable urge to protect them screamed louder. Would she find a way out? Or would she be consumed by the darkness that waited beneath? Clara's instincts kicked in. She bolted down the narrow tunnel, her breath hitching as she dodged shadows that twisted around her like serpents. The unearthly whispers followed, a ghastly chorus urging her to linger, to listen, to join them. Time was a blurry concept. Survival became her singular focus. The beam of her flashlight flickered wildly, illuminating grotesque shapes, their outlines constantly shifting. Every pulse of light revealed twisted faces, eyes spinning with a hunger that sent shivers down her spine. Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something watched her every move with a malicious delight. Get away! She shouted, her voice echoing off the damp walls. But the shadows closed in. She stumbled, fear clawing at her throat, nearly overwhelming her. Clara's mind spun. She thought of Sam and Lily, their innocent faces, their trusting smiles. Would they remember her? Would they know how she tried to protect them? A sudden crash echoed behind her. Startled, Clara whipped around, the flashlight nearly slipping from her fingers. Her heart drummed against her ribcage as she struggled to steady her breath. Was it coming for her? Was it already too late? Then, in all the chaotic terror, a wild idea sparked. What if she didn't have to escape? What if this was about understanding? She gripped the diary tighter. Her father had faced this. He had stared into the abyss, maybe even made sense of it. Could it still be possible? With renewed determination, Clara pressed forward. The walls narrowed, and her path twisted, leading to an expansive chamber glowing with a sickly green light. Symbols seemed to pulsate on the walls, alive, beckoning her forward. The air was thick with fear and despair, yet Clara stepped into the room, turning the flashlight's beam toward the heart of the chamber. Chained to a stone altar was a figure, emaciated and shrouded in shadows, yet somehow familiar. It was her father. "Dad!" she screamed, but the word caught in her throat. His eyes were sunken, filled with an otherworldly despair that chilled her to the bone. "What happened to you?" "Clara," he rasped, the name barely escaping his cracked lips. "You shouldn't have come here. Leave while you still can." The shadows around him wriggled with malicious intent, drifting toward her. Clara's blood ran cold. "What do they want?" she demanded, desperate for answers. "They hunger." His voice cracked. "The truth, it's in the soil, in the roots of this place. You opened the door, and now they're awake." Cold sweat trickled down her back as the whispers intensified, swirling into a chaotic cacophony. "Join us, release us, Dad!" she cried, terror surging within her as the shadows drew closer. "I want to leave you!" But just as Clara took a step forward, a deafening roar shook the chamber, sending her sprawling backward. The shadows recoiled, and the entire room trembled as if something immense began to stir below. The darkness seemed alive, ready to consume anything in its path. "Run!" her father screamed, the desperate urgency in his voice igniting pure terror. Clara scrambled to her feet, but the shadows were already rushing at her, reaching for her heart. With horror clawing at her insides, she turned and sprinted. She dashed back down the tunnel, the whispers trailing behind, more frantic now, more desperate. What awaited her outside? Would the shadows follow her into the light? And what price would she have to pay to protect her children? The echoes of the darkness left tremors in her bones, demanding to be answered. But what was truly waiting beneath the soil of Briar Creek? As she emerged from the tunnel, gasping for breath, dread wrapped around her. The shadows might have been left behind, but the darkness would always find a way to keep its hold. "Mom!" Sam's voice called from the house, innocent and unaware. Clara's heart raced again. Had she truly escaped? Or had she merely returned to the eye of the storm? Behind her, in the now familiar darkness, she felt a presence that was all too aware. She turned slowly, a chill creeping down her spine as the shadows once more began to swirl, thickening as they merged into something monstrous. And amidst the fray, it whispered, "Clara, it's not over." Panic surged through Clara as she faced the swirling mass of shadows. They twisted and contorted, merging into a shape so hideous that even the darkness around it seemed to recoil. Her pulse raced, thumping in her ears like a war drum. She couldn't let them near Sam and Lily. "Get in the house!" she screamed, urgency slicing through her voice. She took a few heavy steps, straining to reconcile the innocence of her children with the horrors lurking just beyond the thin veil of light. The front door stood like a sentinel to a refuge she feared might not hold. But the shadows hissed, weaving back and forth. She could feel their breath on her neck growing bolder. "Come to us," they murmured, the sound a hypnotic melody laced with poison. In that moment, she made a decision. There would be no retreat. Clara had ventured too far into this darkness. She would either uncover its secrets or perish trying. Her father's warning echoed in her mind, but she had to know. She turned back, drawn into the twisted embrace of the shadows. With trembling hands, she clutched the diary, his diary. Would it provide the answers? Or was it merely a trap laid in anticipation of her return? Words swirled in her mind. The truth lies within. The air grew thicker as she stepped towards the chaos, the whispers rising, dancing around her, drowning out her thoughts. Join us, we are one. Clara closed her eyes, forcing herself to breathe. What rooted these things to this world? She needed to grasp their essence. The sickly green light intensified, illuminating symbols on the ground, a language she dimly recalled from childhood tales. Ritualistic, primordial. She thought of stories her father told by the fireplace, of ancient spirits bound to the earth, their vengeance unquenched. Why are you here? Clara spoke, her voice forged from the fire of determination. The shadows seemed to pause, rippling. What do you want from me? A shameful shiver slithered down her spine, but she fought against it. Release us, claim your birthright, they hissed in unison, their voices cold yet fervent. The ground trembled beneath her, and she stumbled, glancing back towards the house. Was Sam okay? Did he hear the whispers? Had she made a fatal mistake? No! She shouted defiantly, pushing against her fears. I won't give in! You've taken enough! And then it hit her, the truth embedded in the roots beneath Briar Creek. It wasn't just power they sought, they wanted a vessel. A chance to rise again. The burden of her lineage was heavy and dark. She could be the conduit for that awakening. An icy fear gripped her heart as the swirling shadows throbbed with anticipation. Join us, Clara. Embrace your fate. In a moment of clarity amidst her racing thoughts, she realized the gravity of her decision. If she did nothing, she would doom her children. But if she engaged, if she negotiated with the abyss, what else might she unleash? Mom! Sam's frantic voice called again, a haunting reminder that time was slipping away like grains of sand. Barely comprehending the sacrificial weight of her next step, Clara shouted, What will it take to keep my family safe? The shadows halted momentarily, swirling as if considering her. The darkness around her seemed to breathe, the tension palpable. Your sacrifice, or there's echoed laughter erupted from the walls, and the ground shuddered beneath her feet. Clara froze, realization crashing over her like icy water. They demanded blood. But how far was she willing to go to stave off their insatiable hunger? Before she could respond, a violent gust of wind whipped through the chamber, sending the symbols glowing bright. Shadows shifted, coalescing closer. A monstrous end was nigh. But Clara still had a fleeting choice. Do I fight or surrender? She thought, dread seeping in. Just then, the lights in the house flickered. Clara's fears peaked, an ominous signal echoing in time with her racing heart. Something had penetrated her sanctuary, and in the consuming darkness, behind the laughter, the whispers taunted her. Time is running out, Clara. The shadows surged forward, a wave of darkness hungry for flesh, pulsing to the rhythm of the chaos inside Clara's chest. She could feel their cold tendrils reaching, teasing the edges of her sanity, eager to drag her into their abyss. She blinked hard, forcing her mind to focus on the task ahead, grappling with the need to shield her children from this onslaught. Sam! Lily! Panic laced her voice again, sharper now, a mother's cry ringing out against the tide of sinister whispers. She turned, half expecting to see her children at the window, eyes wide with fear, but the house stood still, shadows creeping into every crack. A deep dread coiled in her gut. Mom! We need you! Sam's voice rang out again, but it sounded distant, as if the house itself was swallowing his pleas. Clara's heart raced. She couldn't let them down. Not now. Stay away from the windows! She yelled back, barely able to mask the tremble in her tone. Every instinct screamed at her to run back to them. But those sinister mumbles drew her, their promises intoxicating, offering power beyond what she could fathom. Claim your birthright. The shadows trembled with glee, swirling in a dance of dark allure. An image flashed in her mind, her father, poring over ancient texts, muttering warnings as she played at his feet. A legacy woven in fear. What do you want from me? The words spilled out, desperate and raw. The air thickened, suffocating her resolve, the shadows breathing her deepest fears. I will not become your vessel. Then they will pay, the chorus of voices sang, echoing through her very core. Clara's instincts kicked in. She took a cautious step back. In that moment, something sparkled in the chaos, a flicker of light. A talisman? A charm? She fought through the dark, her fingers probing the ground, brushing the cool earth. She sensed its familiarity, a grounding force amongst the chaos. Clara? Sam's voice rang out again, louder, more desperate this time. The urgency of his tone snapped her focus. All that mattered were her children. No! She shrieked, lunging forward. The shadows shrieked in anger, swirling violently like a hurricane, pushing back against her. The ground shook beneath her feet, tremors rattling her bones, but with every ounce of resolve she pushed toward the house. Mom! Please! Sam's voice was now a terrified wail. The darkness around her seemed to hiss, not much time left, brushing against her ears with a sickening, slimy cadence. Stay safe! She shouted, hearing a clang echo from the house. The sound of something shattering echoed through her, like glass breaking under pressure. Clara's heart sank. What had they done? Adrenaline surged as she staggered toward the door, feeling the shadows claw at her, pulling her back. Images of Sam and Lily flooded her mind, their innocent faces, and she felt the grip of shadows tighten about her. Outside, suddenly, everything plunged into silence. The whispers ceased, and the shadows paused, then split apart, revealing a dark doorway leading deeper into darkness. In the space between, she glimpsed a flicker of the children standing together in a pale glow, eyes wide like saucers. What do you want? She shouted, voice cracking with desperation. A shadow stepped forward, solidifying into a figure cloaked in darkness, featureless but with a sinister presence radiating from it. A choice remains, Clara. We will take one, or you will join us as our final conduit. Its voice slithered through the air, chilling her to the bone. No! I want tea! Clara screamed, her heart pounding savagely. She took a breath, feeling the heat of determination rising. She'd make her choice. Leave them be. Take me instead! She shouted, the weight of her lineage rushing through her veins. But the shadows cackled, surrounding her, swirling with wicked excitement. A deep rumble emanated from below, the ground trembling with ancient power. Your sacrifice will bind them to us forever. As the last word echoed, chaos erupted again, and Clara felt herself teetering on the brink of choice, her children's safety, or her own doom. And then, from the heart of the swirling mass, a chilling possibility emerged. But what if salvation lies not in sacrifice, but in understanding? With that, Clara's world trembled, the shadows closed in, and the question hung in the air like a noose. Could she truly save them all, or were they all beyond saving? The ground quaked under Clara's feet, rocks tumbling away as if the earth itself was alive, a monstrous thing stirring beneath the weight of ancient horrors. The shadows erupted in a cacophony of sinister laughter, harsh and mocking, echoing against the walls of the house that had once been a home. Each reverberation sent shards of fear slicing through her resolve. Mom! Sam's shrill cry broke through the maelstrom, tethering Clara's mind to reality. She could not lose them. Panic coursed through her veins like poison, urging her to fight against the encroaching darkness. Hold on! She yelled, her voice raw, barely a whisper against the overwhelming noise. But it felt like a lifeline tugging her back towards the fading light of her children. As the shadows twisted and enveloped her, Clara fought against their suffocating hold. The darkness surged, hungry and relentless, wrapping around her limbs and pulling her down, deeper into that bottomless pit of despair. Release me! She screamed, her voice mingling with the shrieking winds, but the voice of the cloaked figure reverberated, like thunder on a stormy night. You are bound to us, Clara. The choices made now will dictate the fate of your bloodline. Your sacrifice, your understanding of the shadows is the key. The air grew colder, a biting chill seeping into her skin. She could almost feel the shadows wrapping tighter, channels of cold despair cutting through her resolve like knives. She dug her nails into the earth, grounding herself in the moment. I won't let you take them. Her heart pounded, each beat echoing with the rhythm of her fear. Somewhere, a flicker of light caught her eye. It glimmered like a distant star amidst the overwhelming darkness. She remembered her father, his warnings ringing in her ears. Knowledge is power, he had said. She had to remember what he taught her. Maybe you're wrong, her voice trembled, but she stood taller, holding the thought close. Maybe I can save them without succumbing to your will. The shadows recoiled momentarily, confusion rippling through their dark expanse. Could they fear something so simple as knowledge? It was just a glimmer of hope, a thin thread, but it was hers to wield. Sam! Lily! She screamed, forcing herself to focus. Listen to my voice. You're stronger than this darkness. Fight. You have to fight. From the flickering shadows, she saw them, her children, clinging together, their expressions stricken with terror but aflame with her words. The pale glow around them pulsed in a synchronized heartbeat with her own. Clara, the dark figure hissed, its voice laced with urgency. Do not defy your inheritance. You will join us or suffer the consequences. Clara locked eyes with the shadow's depth, unflinching. No! She declared, feeling the pulse of power surge within her. You want a conduit? Find someone else. The shadows howled, anger crackling through the air, sharp enough to feel like static electricity biting her skin. Suddenly, the ground violently shook, dislodging debris that rained down, blasting past her. The figure stepped closer, menace radiating off its form, and for a moment, she felt two things intertwine: fear and a flicker of strength. Enough! Clara shouted, the word ringing true, resonating as fiercely as her heart. You want me to understand? Then let us unravel this together. Every word carried the weight of her plea, the burden of her lineage entwined in it. But as she spoke, the shadows swarmed again, remembering her resolve and shifting like liquid ink, their laughter swirling with renewed fury. In a sudden rush, darkness shot out toward her, a wave of power so fierce it knocked her to the ground. For a heartbeat, all was quiet. Then everything exploded. Darkness consumed Clara's surroundings. The cold enveloped her until it was all she could feel, seeping into her very soul. In the chaos, her heart raced with one heavy realization: understanding wasn't just what they wanted. It was a weapon that demanded sacrifice. And as the shadows closed in around her, Clara's last thought was ferociously clear: could understanding stave off destruction, or did it lead to an even darker fate? The shadows paused at her questions, a deep rumble vibrating through them. What would be the cost of her truth, and would they allow it to survive? With that uncertainty hanging in the air, a flicker in the distance caught her eye once more. This time, it wasn't just light, it was a movement. An escape? Or a trap? Clara couldn't tell, but she would have to decide. Fast. The darkness clawed at Clara, a living entity that sought to devour her very essence. She struggled to catch her breath, her chest heaving as panic unfurled inside her. It pressed against her throat, choking back her words. She couldn't let the shadows win. Not when Sam and Lily were so close, their frightened faces just within reach. Mom! Sam cried again, the sound so raw it tore at Clara's heart. She needed to speak to them, to bring their strength to the surface. Lifting her head, dizzy with the weight of darkness, she called out once more. Listen to me. You are not alone. Her voice, though shaken, carried a power born from desperation. It fueled a flicker of hope that ventured out against the tide of despair. The shadows pulsed, dark tendrils sliding through the air, testing her resolve as they whispered taunts and promises of what a sacrifice would mean. She clenched her fists, determination igniting a fire in her core. No! I will not be your pawn! The air around her vibrated with anticipation, and she felt the shadows shudder back, caught off guard by her defiance. They had grown overconfident. They wanted her fear, her defeat. But how could they understand the depths of a mother's love? How could they harness the will of a bond stronger than any foul magic they conjured? Think, Clara, she whispered to herself, each word a breath of steely determination. Knowledge, her father had said. A way to fight back. If the key lay in understanding the shadows, then she needed to know everything they were hiding. As if sensing her thoughts, the shadows swirled with fury, the winds howling in response. They lunged toward her with a ferocity that sent a shiver through her bones. In that moment, a memory cut through the chaos, sharp and clear: a family night spent in the kitchen, her dad poring over ancient tomes about their lineage, the truth buried deep within the family secrets. Your legacy, Clara, he had said. The shadows are alive. They thrive on fear, hatred, and pain. Learn their stories, uncover their motives. Sudden resolve poured through her. Clara's heart raced as she clutched onto the tiny thread of light shining from her children's fear. I'll find the truth. I will expose what you hide. With that thought, she rose to her feet, summoning whatever strength she had left. Clara focused on the shadows, and inwardly, she began to untangle their web of lies. What if it was just darkness? What if these shadows were remnants of fear and despair from years long gone? Things that demanded to be understood, not just feared. Show me! She shouted, every note of her voice ringing like a bell through the chaos. Reveal your secrets. The shadows hesitated, a thundering silence quelling the cacophony. In that eerie quiet, Clara braced herself. Everything seemed poised, teetering on the brink between her will and the darkness. Then, rage erupted within the shadows, a blackened storm born of betrayal. It surged toward her, fueled by hatred and an ancient need for vengeance. Clara braced herself, feeling the full weight of unwelcome memories. The shadows fought back, even more fierce than before, scathingly whispering the names of those they had consumed. Clara! Sam shouted, terror flaring in his eyes. Mom, get away! His fear was palpable, a needle stuck in her heart. Suddenly, without warning, a figure emerged from the shadows, a small, wizened silhouette draped in darkness, both familiar and unsettling. I am what they made, it rasped, echoing through torn lips. You cannot comprehend the cost. The ground trembled beneath their feet, shifting like a live animal, and Clara's heart dropped as the realization sunk in. The shape held pieces of her past, of her family, wrapped tight in the shadows that surrounded it. Who are you? She stammered, her voice wavering. I am your truth and your nightmare. Clara's breath caught in her throat, her thoughts racing. Could it be? What price had her family paid for the knowledge she sought? What stories lay hidden beneath layers of darkness, so deep she hadn't fathomed them before? As the shadows pulsed with dark life, the figure began to unravel before her eyes, the truth threatening to shatter her world. Clara felt the unyielding grip of terror tightening around her, and she knew understanding would bring clarity to the curse entwined with her legacy. But at what cost? And just as clarity seemed to unravel in front of her, the ground shattered beneath Clara's feet, plunging her and her children into an abyss that promised answers, yet whispered of horrors beyond imagination. In that overwhelming moment, she realized understanding might unravel everything, but it could also bind them closer to the secrets that waited below. Would she dare to descend? Or could the truth seal their fates forever? The darkness swirled tighter, and Clara steadied herself as she felt the pull of the abyss calling her down. The plunge into the abyss was relentless, an unseen force dragging Clara and her children down through the suffocating void. Raw panic ignited like a wildfire in her chest, making her heartbeat resonate against her ears. Sam's grip tightened around Lily, eyes wide with fear, their breaths shallow and quick. The fabric of their reality tore apart, revealing endless blackness swirling with phantom whispers, promises dashed against jagged edges of broken memories. Mom! Sam's voice broke through the chaos, quivering on the brink of terror. Clara's heart twisted painfully. She needed to be their anchor, to protect them from the consuming darkness. Desperately, she squeezed their hands. Hold on. Focus on me. But the shadows clawed higher, whispering fears connected to her, to every dark moment she had ever known. Clara felt icy fingers tracing her thoughts, dredging up despair, memories of loneliness and regret. The abyss closed in, feeding off her dread, pushing her to the brink. Just then, a blinding spark burst from within her, an ember igniting a fierce resolve. This wasn't just about her. It was a fight for her children. We won't let you take us, she shouted, the defiance coursing through her veins like hot fire, and then silence. The air thickened, charged with possibility. The shadows recoiled, their whispers faltering, and the figure of twisted darkness hovered above them, its shape barely forming in the overwhelming night. Clara's breath hitched. It was her father, she knew it deep in her bones. But the intricacies of reality struggled against her will to comprehend. Your truth? She echoed, trembling. What truth? What did the shadows make of you? Ask them? His voice, both familiar and chilling, reverberated through the air, echoing the pain that had been locked within their family for years. Confront them. With fierce determination, Clara looked back into the shadows, agitation rolling off her. If you want us, then show us everything. The air vibrated. The shadows howled an anguished wail that broke like glass. Then, abruptly, images flashed before her eyes, twisting, churning visions of the past. Clara witnessed a child lost, a woman's grief, a dark family secret buried under layers of deception, all because of fear. Everything held her captive. The figure before her trembled as it wept, shapes of past lives the shadows had not just consumed, they had formed a tapestry of sorrow intertwined with her existence. Stop! Sam screamed, his voice shrill, cutting through the enormity of the moment. Mom, please! She turned to him, their faces lit momentarily by a flicker of persistent light emanating from their fear. The shadows hesitated, almost recoiling from the purity of that bond. We can fight this together, Clara insisted, urging strength into each syllable. Then silence hung thick, laden with dread. The shadows started to warp, rising like smoke to envelop her in a dark embrace. Fear mingled with anticipation. What else could they reveal? Clara felt old fears clawing back, regaining power as she faced the truth. What lay on the other side, amidst the suffocating blackness? Clara, the figure rasped, beginning to disintegrate into particles of shadow. The knowledge comes at a price. At that moment, the ground began to shift again, rumbling beneath them like the growl of some monstrous beast. The darkness reeled, mocking them with its chaotic dance. A blinding pain pierced her heart, threatening to crush her with the weight of its truth. Clara clenched her teeth against both the terror and the allure of understanding. Would knowing everything mean losing herself? The submerged memories thrashed around her. Fear crested, and all resolve teetered once more. And just as Clara began to comprehend what that price might be, an ear-splitting crack echoed through the empty void, the darkness quivering in protest. From that crack seeped vivid tendrils of light, igniting the shadows in a brilliant blaze. Clara and her children drew closer, hearts racing, as the shadows writhed against the emerging brightness. What is happening? Sam's voice trembled, eyes darting, searching for an escape. Now, a choice presented itself: delve deeper into the truth and risk being overwhelmed by it, or flee back into the comforting embrace of ignorance. But the choice would mean either unearthing her family's hidden legacy or forever being lost to the encroaching darkness. As the ground beneath them shook worse than before, Clara felt the shadows retreating, their whispers caught in the swirls of upheaval. But they'd be back. The light urged them forward, yet the depths still beckoned with secrets she couldn't ignore. In that horrifying moment, she understood truth could easily transform into something beyond comprehension. And as the emergence of light began to swallow the darkness, Clara realized she would need to face an even greater terror ahead. What awaited her in the heart of the abyss? The last echoes of darkness faded, swallowed by the unrelenting light. But she could feel it pulling back, biding its time. The truth was alive, waiting for her, and she wouldn't have to wait long. The light surged like a tidal wave, crashing against the shadows that scrambled to reassert themselves. Clara shielded her eyes, struggling to maintain her grip on Sam and Lily as the brilliance unfolded before them. The shadows hissed, an anguished cry that slithered through the air, dark tendrils recoiling as if stung by the very light that sought to illuminate their hidden truths. Mom! We need to get out of here! Sam yelled, panic lacing his voice, his eyes darting nervously into the swirling chaos. Clara felt each frantic pulse of her heart, as if it matched the rhythm of the chaos around them. She pulled her children closer, grounding them in the small sanctuary of her embrace. No, we can't leave yet. We need to understand. It was a desperate plea, one that twisted her insides with dread. Wasn't that what had drawn them to this abyss in the first place? The gnawing need to unravel the tangled threads of their past? As if sensing her resolve, The ground trembled violently beneath her feet, sending Clara staggering. The light flickered, casting elongated shadows across the fractured landscape. A warped reflection of the family she had once known, a mother embracing her children before everything fell apart. Clara shook her head, forcing the image away. "This isn't who we are anymore." "Look!" Lily shouted, her voice barely audible above the chaos. "Over there!" In the distance, a shimmering portal materialized, pulsating with a light that seemed to call to Clara, whispering secrets buried deep within her. She hesitated, torn. The shadows shifted again, a living mass intent on reclaiming what they had lost. They snarled, twisting into haunting shapes. She recognized the faces of loved ones twisted into grotesque forms, eyes hollow and pleading. Clara's breath caught in her throat. "Stop!" she cried, forcing herself to face the horror. "I want to be ruled by you. I choose to confront this." With every ounce of determination she stepped forward, pulling her children along with her. The shadows recoiled momentarily, their anguished wails echoing like a monstrous symphony. Clara's heart raced, her instincts screaming for her to flee. But the light felt alive, warm against her skin, pushing her onward. As they approached the portal, she glimpsed flickering visions inside, recollections of family dinners turned sour, secrets shared in whispers, moments drowned in silence. The truth stared back at her, raw and unrefined. "What do we do?" Sam's voice quivered as they reached the threshold, the shadows closing in behind them, sorrowful yet menacing. Together, Clara breathed. It was the only answer, binding them in this fight against their past. They had to leap into that light, trusting it to lead them to the truth rather than succumb to the shadows that wished to consume them entirely. Just as Clara prepared to take that leap, a shriek erupted from the amalgamation of darkness behind them. The ground lurched violently, throwing them off balance. "No!" Clara screamed, desperate to maintain her grip on her children. The portal flickered, sunlight briefly obscured by the overwhelming presence of dread behind them. She turned just in time to see the shadows coalesce into a singular shape, the looming figure of her father, more powerful, more commanding than before. "Your choice," he rasped, a grin curling on his lips, a chilling promise wrapped in torment. "What will you sacrifice?" Clara's spirit wavered. She could see it now, the familiar silhouette marred by the agony of secrets long hidden. The shadows thrummed with energy, ready to strike. "Now!" she urged her children, heart racing as she pushed them toward the light. As they dove in, the illumination swallowed them whole, slicing through the shadows around them like a knife. But deep within, Clara felt the pull of those twisted memories. What price would escape demand? The truth loomed ahead, but it felt perilously close to the edge of oblivion. What would they face on the other side? Unraveling their family's past could become their greatest salvation or their worst nightmare. As Clara hurtled through the portal, a kaleidoscope of light and shadow engulfed her. It felt like the world was falling away, disintegrating into ribbons of reality. Each heartbeat echoed like a thunderclap as she clutched her children tighter. "We're almost there," she yelled, her voice a fierce anchoring force amidst the chaos. And then light. Blinding, pure, overwhelming. Clara stumbled into an expanse of meadow, with fields stretching endlessly, illuminated by a sun that felt warm yet strangely unyielding. For a moment, the peaceful beauty disarmed the remnants of fear swirling in her heart. "Where are we?" Sam whispered, wide-eyed, scanning the serene landscape. "I don't know," Clara replied, breathless. But as she surveyed the vibrant surroundings, she understood this was a place of reckoning, free from the suffocating tendrils of shadow. But it didn't feel completely safe. Something lurked just below the surface. Suddenly, the air shifted, and shadows formed at the edges of the meadow, creeping angrily toward their newfound sanctuary. Clara's heart raced as she recalled the sinister laughter, the promises of darkness trailing behind. "Stay close," she urged, positioning herself protectively in front of Sam and Lily. "Why won't they leave us alone?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. "Because they want something from us," Clara replied, steeling herself. "They want to consume what we don't confront." As if summoned by her words, her father's silhouette emerged from the shimmer at the meadow's center ghost-like, but with an urgent clarity that pierced through the terror. Clara, remember what you choose to uncover. His voice felt distant yet resonated deeply within her. What do you mean? She shouted, desperate for clarity. You must face them. Only in understanding their pain can you break the cycle. You have the power to save your family. With every word, the ground shuddered, and the approaching shadows quickened, hungry for their chance to reclaim. I want to let them take my children. Clara braced herself, remembering the strength forged in love. The realization took root: this was not just about escape but reconciliation. We need to confront them together. We need to show them our light, she said, turning to Sam and Lily. Their bond filled the air with warmth to counteract the encroaching chill. I'm scared, Mom, Sam admitted, his voice faltering. We all are, but light is stronger than fear. It's time to confront our darkness, Clara declared, gathering her resolve. With a deep breath, Clara stepped forward, her children at her side, hearts pounding together in synchronicity. They were a united front against the shadows that wished to consume them. We are here, she proclaimed, her voice echoing through the meadow. And we will not be your vessels. The shadows lashed out, an amalgamation of voices rising in fierce protest, demanding to be acknowledged. You dare challenge us? They shrieked, voices wound together like a dark chorus. You will pay the price. Clara felt the coldness that had plagued her past fears, regrets, buried emotions swirling in the air. The figure of her father wafted like smoke above her, his presence both comforting and terrifying. This is your legacy, Clara. But it doesn't have to define you. I want to let it win. Clara shouted defiantly, eyes blazing. We choose understanding. We choose each other. With every heartbeat, they collectively unleashed a blinding warmth and all-encompassing light that swelled from within. The shadows screamed and writhed, each flicker of light cutting through despair like a knife, revealing their twisted forms that once were hurt, regret, and sorrow. Look within, Clara yelled, urging her children. This is a part of us, the shadows of our fears and our pain. But we can shine brighter. The light pulsated fiercely, encircling them, embracing their pain and transforming it through understanding love. Clara could see her father's form shifting, the anguish in his eyes softening. The shadows began to unravel, but they wouldn't dissipate easily. Instead, they shouted in fury, trying to pull back. What had been lost to them? With each moment, Clara felt the foundation beneath her shake, the ground trembling with desperation. Suddenly, a shadow lunged forward, reaching for Sam and Lily. Clara moved, instinctively shielding them, positioning her body as an unwavering wall. No! She roared. You will not hurt my children! Energy surged from her, a natural impulse that lit the air around them. We choose light and life, she declared, a fierce warrior ignited by love. Clara understood their bond was the path to freedom. As the light surged brighter, the shadows screamed, their wails echoing through the meadow, twisted visages contorting in agony. Let us go! They pleaded in desperation, voices mingling with Clara's resolve. Clara paused, feeling the weight of their pain. What do you want? She shouted, sincerity framing her plea. Release yourself from that which binds you. And the shadows halted, darkness shifting awkwardly before Clara's newfound light. The cries changed, a melding of fear and sorrow transforming into something softer. We want to be free, they murmured, not as a threat but as a longing escape. Then show us the way, Clara beckoned, her heart swelling with compassion. Let us help you find peace. As if by magic, the shadows twisted, revealing stories of their own struggles, fractured moments that reflected Clara's own heartache. Visions of loss, desperation, regret weaving into the very fabric of their beings, pleading for understanding. We will share our light, Clara affirmed. And in that we will set you free. With a last, painful scream, the shadows fractured before her, swirling into sparks of light that glittered like tears in the sun. There was relief. They were finding their meaning in acceptance, their burdens lifting in the light of understanding. Clara's heart filled with warmth. Her family was safe. And in that resounding silence, truth opened its arms wide. Some shadows couldn't return, but collectively they synced with Clara's light, illuminating dark corners of fear that had festered unnoticed. With newfound understanding, Clara held her children close. "We did it," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. The delicate dance with the shadows led to a greater purpose than survival. It was about healing. As the sunlight warmed their faces, the figures of their past began to fade, the remnants of lost souls flickering into ethereal lights, radiating peace instead of seeking vengeance. Clara felt a change deep within her bones, an awakening of hope and illumination. Together they stepped back toward their home, no longer a place haunted by secrets, but a sanctuary filled with truth, love, and newfound power, a legacy rewritten not in fear, but in understanding. With their bond illuminated, Clara knew they would never forget their brushes with darkness. She would keep sharing their story, ensuring that they remained vigilant and brave. But for now, they were home. Free. Life awaited them, full of light. And as Clara took a step forward with Sam and Lily, she realized their journey was only just beginning, a kaleidoscope of possibility unfurling ahead. As the scene faded into the warm embrace of reality, Clara beamed, knowing she would always choose the light. Now is your moment. Don't let the darkness win. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss more exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and boost our message. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how Clara faced the shadows and reclaimed her light. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible journey and triumph. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel and keeping the stories alive. Your actions make a difference.